Hello, and welcome to World Water Week. Water in Australia is a wonderful canvas to nurture and maintain healthy people, healthy country, and healthy culture. However, to enable this connection goes beyond just collaboration. Today, we're taking a deeper look at how Beca HunterH2O is working closely and meaningfully with Indigenous peoples to better understand the integrated nature of humans and resources. Sorry, and ecosystems, apologies, from those who've been doing this work for millennia. And importantly, really importantly, how they are fundamentally reimagining their approach to water infrastructure consulting to go beyond doing lip service to Indigenous communities. To dig into this and more, I am joined by our esteemed panel today. We have Peter Dennis, who is Beca HunterH2O's General Manager of Water across Australia. Very welcome. Bree Fisher, a senior civil engineer and Barra Madrigal woman specializing in sustainable design delivery. And Professor Phil Duncan, who's a Gomeroi man and principal Aboriginal cultural advisor at Beca HunterH2O. Very welcome. Thank you all for being here and for coming such a long way. Before we get things underway, Peter, I wonder if you'd like to, or if we can turn to you to open our session with an acknowledgement of country.
Thanks, Kanika. I'd like to acknowledge both the Sami people of this country and more broadly Scandinavia, as well as the Awabakal people, the Australian Aboriginal owners of the land where I come from. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present of all First Nations people and recognise their connection to country and their caring and maintaining lasting stewardship of country over many thousands of years. In the case of the Australian Aboriginals, up to 60,000 years. May their strength and wisdom be with us today. I had the pleasure of going to see Sami artist Britta Makarat Laba, whose embroidery artwork provides an amazing portal into the care for country of the Sami people, and that they had that over many generations, and the artwork that brought their stories to life. Thanks, Kanika.
Thank you so much, Peter. Peter, as I said in the opening, Beca HunterH2O is on a journey to fundamentally change the way it does business and delivers expertise to better acknowledge and recognize the important role that Indigenous knowledge can play in providing models for water governance, allocation, and restoration of habitats. Can you tell us more about why Beca HunterH2O started this journey and where it's brought you today?
So if you look in Australia, we are facing incredible extremes in terms of drought and flood, and our cities and regional communities are really grappling with that. We've been doing work around the paleoclimate, looking at beyond just the data or record, looking at the last 1,000, 2,000 years. And in the last 1,000 years in Australia, in New South Wales, which is on the east coast, there's been 6 mega droughts and 1 drought in 1134, which was 39 years long. Wow. So bringing that, so climate variability was far greater than we ever understood. So bringing that contemporary scientific knowledge together with traditional knowledge, the Australian Aboriginals had to survive. Like 2,000 years is not very long compared to the many tens of thousands of years. So what can we bring? We're combining those two knowledge sets. And I think that goes for all the contemporary challenges we face around water. Water is just such an amazing canvas to bring together that traditional knowledge and our own contemporary science to sort of grapple with some of those challenges. So that knowledge is really a gift, that traditional knowledge, and it's really exciting to form teams that can do that. And we're working across New Zealand and the Pacific and Australia. So the Pacifica culture, the Maori iwi culture, plus the Aboriginal culture, and really making that part of solving some of the contemporary challenges we're working through.
Thank you so much for that, Peter. I mean, I think it's really fascinating that bridging that you talked about, and looking back at millennia of experience and matching that with what we're learning today in contemporary science and knowledge. Bree, I'd like to come to you. You are an Indigenous woman who is really helping to champion this work from within. Beca HunterH2O. Can you tell me a bit more about your own experience?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first joined Beca HunterH2O, I noticed that we had an internal sustainability working group, which is a team dedicated to embedding sustainability into the way that we deliver business as usual. And there was a focal topic there for embedding cultural awareness, which no one had yet put their hand up to lead out. I felt quite personally drawn to that because in my early 20s I'd started to go on my own cultural journey to reconnect with my own mob, because I've grown up and lived off country, disconnected, which is quite a common story for many Aboriginal Australians. And so as I was going on my own cultural journey, I saw this opportunity to help others within Beca HunterH2O go on their own cultural journey, whether they're Indigenous or not, and just wanted to learn and grow. And so through that, we've started to create tools that will help people on that journey. And something that I found really, really inspiring and uplifting throughout this is that the strength of our women's voices really shines brightly and it carries in a bold way. And I feel very, very lucky because, yeah, it's the women that are in my company and surrounding me and my role models who are helping me really spotlight that Indigenous voice as well. It's a true source of strength.
Well, from what I understand, Bree, it seems as though you are also one of those role models and pioneers. I've come to learn largely through Phil that you've been really a champion behind developing the cultural toolbox that's being used to guide a lot of this work. Can you tell us a little bit more about the toolbox and how it might be relevant to those outside of the Australian context?
Yeah. So, like Pete mentioned, we work across Aotearoa and the Pacifica regions as well as in the Australian context. And so we recognised quite early that this cultural toolbox, it needed to be more than just Australian based. We needed to be acknowledging and respecting the culture of the Maori people and the Pacifica regions with the 22 different islands and the many cultures there. So we created these toolboxes to help our teams and our people understand the different cultures, the different customs, to understand the different challenges that each region is facing, and whether you're inland, living on an island, living in valleys and mountains, to understand how all this affects things and also the communities and the different needs. And it's really, really fantastic too, because through doing this and through helping our people learn and grow personally within themselves as a first point of call, it also helps them carry that knowledge into the way we deliver work and business. And we've seen that reap real benefits for our clients and for the community. There's one council we work for who's on the east coast of Australia, and they operate across a local government area which is a comparatively lower socioeconomic area with a higher proportion of Indigenous peoples. And our purpose-built team, who understood the needs of this community deeply and fundamentally, were able to then they were able to apply for and secure over $90 million
Wow.
in government funding to help invest in water infrastructure to help benefit this community. So taking the time to work with your teams and help them on a personal journey, it flows on and has a bigger effect in community and through your clients and through your company. And it's just a good way to do business, to be human.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's such a powerful message there, taking the time to invest in that personal growth, but it also opens your eyes up to the true needs of a population to be able to go in with proper planning and proper requests. Thank you so much for that experience sharing, Bree. Phil, I'd like to turn to you now. The need to better connect with and integrate with Indigenous communities is not new. And so we've been talking about this, unfortunately, and failing at it for quite some time. So tell me what's different here and what should others be taking note of?
What drew me to Beca HunterH2O for this wonderful opportunity and the position that's been presented to me is the relationship. And that was important, and the culture of the agency, and how the agency has embraced the culture through a cultural lens, and not being afraid to take guidance and advice. So we have not systematically dismantled the way we're doing business. We've slowed down, and we're reimagining how we can be better together internally, how we can have these purpose-built teams that is Indigenous led, and how we can then go outward thinking in a more confident and a successful mindset. It's central to that thinking is how do we engage the leadership from the community? How can we are willing to be vulnerable. That's another good quality about Beca HunterH2O. We're not afraid to seek guidance and advice to be assured that we're on the right on the right pathway with and for the community. And I think our language that we use is important. If we have this fundamental connection that we don't do things for people, that we will fail ourselves and we will fail the people. And ensuring that reciprocity is paramount in our minds. It's what we leave. And I just want to go back to the $90 million for this community that has a huge Aboriginal population in the local government. Slowing down, seeking guidance and advice was the secret to that success. And it's life changing for a lot of young people with employment, in a meaningful employment. And yeah, it's just really nice to slow down before we speed up, and we leave no one behind.
I think that's a really important message there, the need to slow down before we speed up. But I also really I want this quote to stay with our audience. We don't do things for people. And I assume the alternative to that is we're doing things with, putting our communities in the lead and pushing them forward. I will certainly be taking that with me. Phil, I want to keep going in this conversation, and you are a member of an Indigenous community. You spend a lot of time speaking with other Indigenous communities and members of Indigenous communities. Do you see this as a meaningful change? I think you do. I think that's what you've mentioned a little bit here. So do you see this as a meaningful change, even maybe beyond Beca HunterH2O? And then also, what do you hope others in Australia and elsewhere will be able to take from this approach?
I think I'm blessed with this opportunity to work with a wonderful company, great people that are like-minded. It's about going out and asking the question, what do you want from us? And how can we do that in the best way, in the most cultural appropriate way we can for you? How asking them questions. How do you want to be engaged? How do you want what type of leadership role do you want to play? How do we invest in that community to leave, the relationship is so important. There are things that we do out of scope. And whilst the project and the specifications of the project are paramount and we tick that box and we walk and talk with them, it's what we also do over here around capacity building of the community. Traineeships, scholarships in engineering, biological, environmental scientists, looking at them. I've just launched my own branded, my family's name, brand Ella Duncan, PhD for environmental science for an Indigenous person, and we found someone, which is great. But that's the type of way that we do business at Beca HunterH2O. We are not afraid to take guidance and advice from the community. I think that's the secret to our success.
Thank you so much for that. I think that's certainly something that I think we can all be doing a little bit more of in terms of taking guidance and advice from our communities. Peter, I want to ask you almost the same question. But with a different perspective. You're coming to this conversation with this perspective of a general manager for a for-profit business. What is the meaningful change that you see, and how do we convert more businesses to follow the lead of Beca HunterH2O?
Thanks, Kanika. achieving solutions which are sustainable is core to what our clients want and core to what our people want. I think attracting people who are caring for country, caring for other people is exactly what we want to do in our business. And so it all aligns. And I think you bring in sort of nature-based solutions and nature-positive approach, which is really important. It just makes good sense. You get people working on projects that make a difference, that are tackling some of our big problems, and just the cultural piece is just part of that. And I think you look at the challenges of our cities and our growing regions. There's so much to learn about the respect and care for country in working through that. So much knowledge. So how we can do that well. Having people like Bree in our business that is able to bring her skill sets not just as a civil engineer but the cultural experience as well, all goes to better solutions. Being able to, the problems we face needs much more diverse perspectives. The problems we face are more complex, and I think it needs not just engineers but economists, the social, being able to, as a water sector, we need to look beyond just the water sector. We need to be able to connect with our city planners, our energy planners, our communities, to be able to come up with the right solutions.
Thank you so much, Peter. I mean, I think so much of what you've said as well is absolutely applicable for so many different businesses within the water sector, and also finding those good synergies with clients that ensure that we're all moving towards the right direction. Respect for environment, respect for care, respect for country. Thank you so much for that. We are coming, unfortunately, to the end of our conversation. I feel like we could be spending the whole day talking about these things. So I want to ask you all, think about, what do you want our audience to be walking away with? So Peter, tell our audience, where do we go from here? What do you want to see happen next?
I think it's taking the time to have the right conversations. We can't afford to make mistakes anymore, given the urgency of the climate challenges. So it's sort of slow down to fasten up in a way, and I think taking everyone on the journey is really important. We're really excited about the opportunities in dealing with some of our communities and getting the right team. We're setting up the Gunnamurangali team, which brings that cultural experience and capability to some of these challenges. So we're really excited about the journey ahead.
Wow, it sounds very exciting as well. And I really like this idea of taking everyone on the journey. And you also mentioned that in your previous answer as well, in terms of making room for others and making sure that we have the space within our organizations to have the Brees and the Phils and the other competence to come forward. Bree, what do you see as the next steps? What do we need to be doing more of, and who do you want to be talking to?
So I think moving forward, I want to see, and I'll say more people rather than businesses or companies, because at the end of the day, that's people make those up. I want to see more people communicating and talking with, like, taking the time to sit and deeply listen to our First Nations and Indigenous peoples across the globe, wherever you're operating. Make the space to have those bold conversations. And remember too that to achieve a sustainable future, we need diversity in these conversations. Indigenous, non-Indigenous, we need gender balance brought forward, we need men's, women's, non-binary, or however you identify. We need those voices that are marginalised to be amplified and heard and lifted up. And so I would like to see more people working together to do that, because a sustainable future can only be achieved together, and there is knowledge that is enduring and has been here for years and years and years and will continue to be passed on for generations, which can lead towards that sustainable future if we just make the space to sit and listen and work together.
Bree, I really like your choice of words there. I mean, not only you specifically said, I don't want to talk about companies, I want to talk about people because that's who make it up, but also the idea that we need to listen to Indigenous people, not consult. And I think that's a really important distinction that you're making there. And also, this is, I think, another quote I'm going to take out of the session today: sustainability requires diversity. Beautifully said. Phil, I will give the last word to you. What does the future hold, and who are you hoping will take the next big steps?
Just firstly, the Gunner group is Gamilaroi language. It's Sacred Mother Earth and Water group. And it's innovative. And one of the fundamental platforms or principles that we have is bringing two knowledge systems together. Western science and Indigenous, what we call cultural science in Australia, or traditional ecological knowledge. Being able to interweave those together to create options, stronger options, or nature-based solutions based on cultural practices, methodologies on how we've interacted with country in that symbiotic manner, the sustainable, resilient manner. It's about, for me, it's about empowering people. It's about unlocking the ally within, building people's cultural confidence and therefore their cultural capability, or their cultural capability, therefore their confidence when they're out there with us as part of these purpose-built teams. With the lineup to join the Gunner group as a staff member is exciting across our country. We got the barriers up at the moment, so slow down. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I hope that people will watch our journey, because it's truly Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal, and choice. I don't know how to say it any other way, but the diversity. Right? The other key thing about diversity is appreciating our diversity within the company will give us the edge in our core business, because what works in Aotearoa or Pacifica, or in another country where we are doing work, that may be a model that we could bring into our world. And so, we got a wondering mind. We're coming at it with exploratory thoughts. And the most important thing is reimagining how our company can be better together internally, therefore better with our people that are the recipients and the end users of our work.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I don't think I can really add very much. I think you said it so well, but I really want to stress one line, and that was appreciating our diversity will give us the edge. And I think that that's really quite special. And I think you're right. Bree, Phil, Peter, thank you all so much for being here for this conversation, and also to share your experiences. I think that's really valuable, and not just strengthening collaboration between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, but also how you're daring to change, and as we said, slow down to speed up. I think that's a really inspiring way of looking at things, and we certainly hope that others will be reaching out to you to learn more from your experiences. Thank you again. Thank you so much to our audience here in Stockholm, and also to those of you joining us online. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.